as you know, that Trump has he first banned Huawei, right? And then he was going to ban the TikTok, China's biggest sort of a chat application that is being used worldwide. Of course, and Trump cited national security as the reason. But what do you think is his real motive?
Yes, his real motive. This is very important. I think TikTok became well known about a month and a half before, if you remember, when Trump was having a first rally at Oklahoma, right? And there were people that using TikTok to make a fake reservation of attendance. Yeah, I remember that. And Trump was very pleased at that time because he thought that there might be almost 1 million people.
Yeah, he was talking about 1 million people.
He even prepared an extra stage outside. It's cost a lot of money, I believe.
Okay.
And then it turned out that it was a very, very low turnout. And I think that was the beginning of TikTok known to Trump. Really, I mean, if you look at Trump, I think he is taking things very personal.
Sure.
Yeah, I think he kind of person would take things very personal.
So this could be partly out of personal grudge, right?
I think this is the first thing that made TikTok got into his ear about what he should do something with TikTok because he feel that he should do something like a revenge to this TikTok. That's the beginning.
At the time, he might not have heard of TikTok.
No,
before,
I don't
right?
think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. Yeah, but because of that, TikTok became well known, and after that, he learned that TikTok play a role, big role in causing this thing, and I think it's on his mind for a time and trying to get back to TikTok. Let me put it that way.
But now the issue has grown into a issue of confrontation between China and U.S. now. So, and according to the latest news from the U.S., he has threatened to ban the parent company of WeChat also. Right. If WeChat is not taken over by sort of an American company within 45 days. So he's not looking as individual applications or targets now. I think he is looking at China as a bigger target, right?
Yes, I think this is an ongoing war between China and the U.S. to a certain extent, and I think maybe Trump is making a calculation that by doing this he will please his base. But at the same time, a lot of Americans are using TikTok. Not only that, WeChat is used by a number of American Chinese. But they were using with American Chinese or even Americans who want to do business with China because you can transfer money and everything, right? And that is going to be very, very negative to people who have been interrupted by this order of Trump. So I don't know that he makes a good calculation on this. I mean, he keeps his base. That's very true, right? But doesn't he want additional people who wants to be on his side? Because by doing this, he's making sure that, okay, I will lock in with my base and I will not care anything else about the rest.
So one might sound a little bit personal, but why does President Trump dislike China so much?
I don't think he dislikes China that much. Maybe he even loves China. But I think he plays politics with it. And not only that, I think he and the president of China probably, we don't know, okay? But I think to a certain extent, if you follow the news back then at that time, they were kind of in love. In that sense, they were talking about nice things about each other, and then at a certain time they started to have problems. I think the only thing that started here was coronavirus, because Trump keeps saying China virus all the time, and that started it. And and I think the reason that he started because this is the time that he needs to get his base, and to get his base, he needs to be angry at China. Okay.
Because we're seeing that the tensions have started from the trade war, now the COVID-19 blame game, and now banning all of these Chinese apps. So what would be the best way to ease the tensions between the two countries?
That's a good question, but I think this ongoing fighting will keep on going until after the election. And I think it will not go into something like killing the heart. No, it's not going to be like that. But China is going to retaliate to a certain way. And then like the last time, the U.S. closed the consulate, the consulate of the Chinese, and the Chinese return
return,
by
yeah,
doing the same
Chengdu,
thing.
yeah.
So I think it's going to be the same. Okay, if WeChat and the TikTok are closed by the US. I think China might find some kind of some apps application, American application. That they might do something about it.
Well, there are not many American applications available in China in the first place.
Yes, that's the first. Okay, that's good.
Google, Facebook are not available.
Right,
Because
I don't know about that.
all of these social media, if let's say like Facebook, that
Uh-huh.
over there will be like Weibo. I'm not sure if I pronounced it correctly. Like all of these popular social media apps, they all have a Chinese version for it. So if anyone wants to get into China, approach China, or do business with China, they all have to understand what sort of social media they're using. So like we're using WhatsApp or Line, they're using WeChat, basically. But
So the TikTok business came about 2 weeks after Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, made a very strong statement about China. He described China as a new tyranny, right? Not China exactly, but the Communist Party of China. Right? He was very exact as to where he was pointing his finger. And then he was urging countries of the free world to unite against this new tyranny, that is the Communist Party of China. Do you think that sooner or later Thailand will be under pressure? I mean, to go along.
I'm afraid that might come to Thailand. The reason is this: if you heard that's the recent news, right? There was a news that Trump mispronounced the word Thailand. Remember that he was he was giving his rally talk at I think the latest one here. Okay, I don't recall where it was. And then he was saying that Thailand. Instead of Thailand and Vietnam are taking advantage of us, And CNN came out and said why he mispronounced Thailand. You know what? I see two things. I see that, okay, number one, I see maybe Trump's not very focused on Thailand. That's why he did not pronounce it right, which I think is good for Thailand, because if he start focus on Thailand, he's going to see that we have some kind of trade surplus with the US, and that might come to us a little bit. But CNN pick it up and make a funny thing about this, make fun of Trump about mispronounce the word Thailand, okay?
Which is one of the U.S. oldest allies.
Right.
Yeah.
well, and that's gonna perhaps bring attention more to Trump, and I don't think that's good for Thailand, because I think if Trump interested in Thailand, he will find out that we still have some trade advantage with the U.S. and he might try to do something that's not very good for us. Anyway, I think I see this as one chapter of the relationship between China and the U.S. up to this election. So I don't think we should take this seriously about whether China and the U.S. are going to be the permanent enemy. They're going to kill each other. I don't think it will go to that.
You don't think it will not escalate into an open confrontation?
I don't think so. I don't think we'll go to that at least up until after election or before after election.
because it looks like both China and the US are attacking at each other all the time. So when will the tensions ease, even if after the elections are gone?
We see China and the US are some kind like an enemy with each other. But inside or behind the scene, I think it's in the interest of China as well as the USSR or Russia right now, that would prefer to have Trump stay on another term instead of having the Democrat who comes in and may be very, very concerned about the human rights and all kind of trade thing and that kind of stuff. So and if you have Trump in another term, maybe it will give enough time for China to develop some kind of I don't know, certain kind of like the weaponry or trade surplus or anything that could help benefit China a little bit more than having the Democrat in. So maybe we are seeing a drama playing right here in a certain extent. Just remember that when he was having a problem with North Korean leader Kim, right?
Kim Jong-un.
And they thought that that might be a big enemy with each other, but it turned out he said that he and Kim Jong-un are good friends. Remember that? He said that, and later on they become enemy again. So I think it's interesting. There was a latest interview by Jonathan Shaw. I think It's called HBO interview. And I watched that interview very, very closely. And it was not very long interview. But the point is this, in that interview, I think this is the first time that you can see that Trump's become the target of the reporter. Usually when Trump gives an interview, he will be the boss. He will be the big over. He will be able to control the situation, everything. But this is the time that I think the reporter, who I think he's a brilliant reporter. I mean, Trump must have fallen in some kind of a spike with this guy because he's a young guy and he's very he works hard and he doesn't have some kind of a fake thing that makes Trump feel bad about it. And Trump seems to be following what he's saying. And he was asking that, how do you make your decision? And he said that, you know what, I always make decisions in a positive way because if I think positive, the good thing will follow. And when you look at that, I think that is not very good if you are in politics. Of course, if you are a salesperson, you said, oh, this is going to good house, this is going to sell well, and you can follow with that dream, right? But you cannot say in that kind of thing in politics. And I think this is what Trump is doing. He sees things in a positive way, although that thing is not in a positive way.
He is a businessman after all, right? He still is.
Right. And when you look at that and when you hear this, I think you can understand why Trump is thinking like that. For example, there was a question asked about the coronavirus in the U.S. And Trump was looking at a certain chart, and he was saying that, look at this chart, and the U.S. has the lowest cases. And that reporter was puzzled that how do you see that? And Trump was using some kind of figure that's not used, in an international way, and he believed in it that way. So this is the kind of thing that I can see that I think Trump has his way of thinking, and he doesn't want to be interrupted by any supporter or any helps any advisor at all. And that's why this is very, very bad because when he does something wrong, nobody dare to tell him that this is wrong. I think this is why.
It's very obvious that on one hand, Trump has been trying very hard to play down the dangers of the coronavirus.
Right.
On the other, he plays the China card.
Yes.
Do you think these two things will help him in any way in the election?
Yeah. Remember, I said that now he's only concerned about his base. See, a lot of people think that why Trump make an enemy. Actually, he's making an enemy for a certain group of people. But by making that enemy, he's making a lot of loyal friends love him more. Meaning this 35% that I mentioned to you before. Remember, in the U.S. election, you don't need 100% of people. You only need, because only 60%, less than 60% of people come out. And if your base is about 35%, and you are strong in your base, you don't have to worry so much about the rest. You can win the election. And not only that, even though now they're saying that look at the statistic, look at the poll, Trump's following, right? Yeah, that's true. But U.S. election is very technical, okay? Because I think in the majority vote, Trump can lose as much as 5 million people, and he still can win the election if he wins in those. I've said the what do you call that? The states, the 10 state that can flip either way.
Swing state.
The swing state, right? The swing state, right?
So speaking of the polls, how reliable is it? Because if we all remember back in 4 years ago, Hillary Clinton was winning in all of the polls, but all of a sudden President Trump won. Will this be the same for this year?
Again, this is the question that people say again, that you were not right at last time. How would you say this time you were right? Well, last time they weren't wrong, totally wrong, because in fact, Trump lost 3 million votes. Remember that? But like I said before, U.S. election is decided by the electoral college, not the popular vote. Now, this time, at this stage, you see a lot of places that Trump won in the 2016. That's not very good at this time. That's one thing that is a good result. Number two, I think that let me put it this way. If the poll comes out like this, okay, come out like a Trump is behind, okay, maybe he is behind at this time, but he's already planned something by that time. Remember, this poll, it's just now, right? And we have 3 more months to go.
That's right.
And you know what Trump gave an interview today? He said, the vaccine is going to come out on the date of the election. I mean, this is so blunt. I mean, you could say that it come out around that time. You could have said that, right? But
That's
he
Trump.
said,
That's Trump.
that's so Trump. It's so Trump. And he said it like that. And even though he said it like that, the base love him. The reason that I can see it is because that Jonathan Shaw, who interviewed in the HBO thing, he said he followed in the rally a base, the base of Trump, right? And he said, I follow in your base, and everybody in your base believe you. They believe what you say. So could you say something to make them more safe, something like that? Meaning that he's like God to them. Whatever he says, really, he's like God to them, and they will believe him. Okay. So I think this is one thing that we have to take into consideration as well.
But every single announcement President Trump made, whether it's on COVID-19 or all the other facts, they've all been fact-checked for some reason. So
this means his credibility is not very, very high then. Even
Can we actually
Facebook,
say
Twitter
that?
have removed his clips in which he said about children being immune to COVID-19.
That's right. But even that, I think that Twitter already removed that out of that thing, right?
All right, now let's talk about Trump's would-be rival in the election, right? Joe Biden. And he has yet to decide who to pick for as his running mate. Right. And of course, as Thai people, we are cheering for Tammy, Radha Duckworth.
Yeah, I already said that about.
So what is the prospect of her being chosen as his running mate?
Yeah, well, I know Kun Radha in person because she came to my class, way back a long time ago. She's a very nice person, but for her chance to be in this game, I think it would be not very good. Number one, I think if she becomes a potential vice president candidate, she will be attacked on her nationality because Kun Radha was born in Thailand, so she has dual nationality. And according to the constitution, the person who becomes the president has to be naturally born in the state. And the reason that I say that is because the vice president takes over the president whatever happens. So the vice president has to have the qualification ready to be the president whenever it comes. It might not come, but if it comes, that person must have the full qualification. And this will be attacked by Trump.
So the key thing is that you must be fully American, born in the States, and in order to be the vice president.
Yes.
So
not to be the vice president, to be the president.
Oh,
but
as
because the vice president will become the president should anything happen. All right? And
Right.
therefore, you should have the person who has the full qualification.
So who would be the best candidate as the vice president in your perspective?
I think Biden has already made up his mind about Harris.
Kamala Harris?
Yes, the black lady who probably qualify more. At least she doesn't have the problem about the so-called the birth thing, right? Maybe that might be the person because there was a kind of sneak photograph on the note of Biden, and her name came up on the top, and they suspect that will be the one. So we don't know that yet because they're not going to publicly say that. Actually, if things goes on in a normal way, right? The official vice president will be elected in the third day of the convention, which is next month, when they have the convention. But because this year, everything is so exceptional, so maybe Biden might just announce his pick before the convention. But usually they do that in the convention.
So speaking of Joe Biden, how can he maintain his popularity until the day of the election?
Interesting, if you ask me if a lot of people love Biden, and I said no. But the point is, they hate Trump more than they hate Biden. Okay? So because of that, they might want to pick Biden, even though they don't like Biden.
By default, maybe. By default.
Yeah, right. Okay. Biden also has a little problem because he's older than Trump, and he is a little bit mental problem. So when he speaks, he sometimes loses.
And that's why his choice of the running mate is very important.
Yes, that's why his running mate is important. And now they fixed that. Now they said, now, number one, he has to speak slow And number two, you need the teleprompter, like Trump.
Yeah.
You don't say, because so you won't forget. So you have the teleprompter on this way and this way. So you can look at it and you can look at it and you won't make mistake. But even that, he always makes mistake. Like the latest one that he made mistake was that he said, he said that unlike the African American, the Latino American have diversity, diversity. So that's makes the black feel very bad because the black also have variety as well. So sometimes he lose the thing and say things that need to be fixed later on.
Yeah. And of course, it would be very interesting to watch the two, Trump and Biden, go toe to toe on the debate stage.
Yeah, that would be very interesting to watch. Right. And I think that's like Trump say that the more Trump say that he wants to meet Biden, I think that's mean that Trump scare Biden. That's how I see it. Okay, because Trump keeps saying Biden from the very beginning, and you know why? Because number one, I think Biden is a person who's already been on the job before. He was a vice president before. So you cannot say a lot of things and make things go because Biden will know what Trump say is true or not true. He cannot just claim that, okay, I say this and make a loud noise and nobody stop him because Biden's going to stop.